Hello and welcome to Do the Right Thing, a weekly writing prompt podcast. I'm Matthias.
And I am Jarvis.
Jarvis and I are aspiring writers, which means we forget to write every single day.
So we're doing a challenge. Every week we set a timer for 30 minutes and write a complete short story. Our goal is to include at least 3 randomly generated words.
Then we come on the podcast, we read the stories, we talk about what we've learned in writing them, and then we talk about stories written by you listeners.
We are simply here to help you write better.
Do the right thing. What? Monkey's wrench every time.
Monkey's wrench.
I feel like the gears of this podcast get jammed up every episode.
Which is why we have to put a little bit of oil on top of it.
Okay. This week
we have a guest.
We are joined by our amazing guest, Clarence. I don't know your last name.
Brooks.
Brooks?
Say hello to the wonderful listeners.
Hello, listeners.
Tell us about yourself. Who are you? Why do we care?
He's a very good writer, I will say.
Oh,
Extremely
thanks.
very good. I'm very excited to talk about your story this week.
I guess I'm more of like a zine writer.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like writer-artist.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm studying to be an elementary school teacher.
Oh, I did not realize that.
Yeah. I had
So you're really gonna...
Yeah, I had these grand notions of going to like into academia.
Uh-huh.
But then also I'm sorry if I'm talking too soft.
That is totally okay.
No,
Are you kind of banking on having that summer to write all your stuff?
Yeah, and it usually when I write, it's like I don't block out time. So this was actually really an interesting moment.
Yeah.
I usually write in a lot of like liminal spaces.
Okay.
So like sitting in the car, if there's like 10 minutes before class, I'll have had something kind of like sitting in my head for a while, and I'll just kind of quickly jot it down and then go back to it later. Mm-hmm. Or like if I'm just, standing around or that sort of thing, like most of the time it's not a designated moment.
Right. You haven't sat down to do your writing for the day. It's just whenever the feeling catches you.
Whenever you can.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you say you do zines a lot. I know the one that you showed in that class that we share.
I have no clue what a zine is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask you to give a definition for listeners who don't know about it.
Is it xenophobia?
No.
No, it's like it's
spelled zine.
Yeah, it's spelled zine. It's like the end of magazine.
Mm-hmm.
And it really like is difficult to define because it's such a large medium.
Mm-hmm.
But basically it's like paper, and there can be like illustrations, there can be just words, but it can kind of range from like political to like more personal kind of identity construction, or like fanzines. Like there was one that was like Buffy, but
I gotta tell Scott about that. He's someone else on the Doof network, which we are a part of, and which we still haven't put into the intro because I keep forgetting. But proud member of the Doof network. Yeah, Scott's a big Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan, so I gotta like that one.
Rightfully so.
I don't know how to like search for it though, because a lot of the like, especially the ones like 90s and before, are just kind of like
Right.
paperly distributed. So
right.
they
and you would have to like know a person who has it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's. I feel like that's like one of the defining parts of zines is like you got to know people who like know people, sort of thing.
Wow. Okay.
The internet, I guess, has like opened that up a little bit more, but the like main spaces to find it are like house shows and like art shows, like that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, you've this in talking to you about these things has really opened my eyes that there actually is an underground literary / arts movement, which
that's
is
pretty
the majority
cool.
of people who like write
completely missed
zines
it.
are like people who wouldn't ordinarily be accepted into like publishing houses, or like originally wouldn't have been like in the second half of the 20th century. That was kind of like the medium of like riot girls and these sort of like unfiltered spaces, I guess.
Yeah.
It's kind of,
so it's an area kind of like big for experimentation, right?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's extremely interesting. So do you do a lot or?
Yes.
Okay.
I do a lot of scenes. I don't usually like hand them out. I mean, I'll make scenes for like people specific to them.
Huh.
Oh, wow.
There's just kind of like things that I have that are like kind of sitting around them.
Right.
And like that sort of thing I'll give to people, and then a few times like the Sylvia Rivera like book club that's like based in Dallas. That I don't know, they haven't been super active recently, but they came up to Denton and had like a zine exchange.
Okay,
so
cool.
I, like, exchanged them offline, and they like so. But they're fantastic. Kind of like they've got some more like political stuff, which was cool.
Well, that's really, really cool.
Very, very eye opening. I didn't know anything about a zine.
Yeah, they're very cool.
The cool writers.
Yeah, the edgy on the like frontier.
Yeah.
Honestly,
they're usually ones that like want to be like loud.
Right.
You know? This is like them. This is like them kind of like screaming into like
the void.
The void. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna pull the mic a little closer.
Sorry, I tried to speak up, but
it is totally okay.
No,
you know,
it is my lot in life to be.
I mean,
quiet.
Ideally, we would have multiple microphones, and we could just adjust levels for each one, and it would be much easier that way. But that's too much work. So, so getting into the words. So let's see the words this week, and then we'll talk about how it went for each of us. So the words this week are
comb, unbecoming, snow, and leg.
Yes, I hated that leg was one of them. I was really upset.
Well, I could tell that because leg was there, a lot of people followed these specific paths. Like because leg was there, there were a couple of them that took place in a hospital.
That was an interesting
sort
of thing of like these like patterns of thought. Of, like there was a lot of like injury. There was a lot of like bodily harm.
Exactly. That's very true.
Instead of just kind of like presence.
Yeah.
The like phrase "a arm and a leg" showed up at least 3 times. I read, which I absolutely love that phrase.
Okay.
It's I can definitely see where that one of the 4 specifically took a lot of people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which it was interesting too, because you initially like having told me these like 4 words, you were like, it doesn't have to be in any sort of, you know, specific iteration. You can kind of like change it however you want. My immediate thought was that it should not be like a noun.
Yeah, okay.
It should be
like two-legged.
Legging.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That's also a noun, Jarvis.
Legging.
Yeah, so
it is the act of legging.
Yeah.
Is the act of leg. It's a verb.
But there was like a specific tonality, I guess, associated with that verb.
Yeah, it's like very informal.
More, yeah. But
so,
I didn't find any that were kind of.
So which words did you use?
So I used comb, not unbecoming, because and then the other 2, which have escaped.
Snow and leg.
Snow and leg. Yes.
So why didn't you use unbecoming?
I feel like because it was. Unbecoming has more of like this like etiquette sort of attachment to it that I was like I wasn't really
it was I noticed in multiple stories that it was the one that was most likely to come out awkwardly.
Well, because you have to that word needs a lot of tone that's fitting, that's put around it. Because I think the reason why it stood out so much is because if it's just normal colloquial speak, no one says unbecoming. That's very much so.
If they do, it's sarcastic.
Exactly. It's very much so something that I would definitely expect to read in like Moby Dick or something.
Yeah, it's a very Victorian, you know, button up the you know, little.
That is so unbecoming of you.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't marry him; he's poor.
Okay. So did you enjoy? You were telling me before we started recording of like how doing the right thing, like with the 30 minutes and everything like that, was a different kind of thing for you.
Yes, it because I kind of write in these like peculiar spaces.
I love that word.
I don't. I like peculiar, but I can't use like liminal.
It's my favorite word you said. No, sorry, I'm interrupting.
I use that a lot though. Spaces. I think so much about space.
It is
all of the time.
Yes, and by space you don't mean outer space. You just mean like.
Yeah, like no outer space. Terrifying.
Oh yeah,
terrifying. But like kind of the
physical spaces.
Yeah, like and especially like domestic spaces and how those have kind of like shaped our minds and like the relationships we have with each other and like how we kind of like create the way that we like understand the rest of the world based on whatever space that we kind of like have built as our own. You know?
Yeah.
But anyways, wait, there was a question.
There was a question.
How was doing the right thing for you?
Oh, yes. I found it terrifyingly limiting.
Okay, interesting.
Because
that sounds great.
I like usually when I'm like awaken in like the mornings, and I'm like, yes, today we'll be writing.
Okay, today we'll be writing.
I'll just like turn on music and forget that like time exists.
Yeah.
And then like resurface in like 5 or 6 hours.
Right.
After like doing things.
Right. Sounds scary.
But I had to be much more like conscious of the fact that like I was kind of like confined within a space.
And a time.
And a time. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. I conflate those a lot. Yeah, so it definitely like dictated how long I like spent like piecing everything together.
And do you see that as like a benefit to the actual thing, or is it just like
I think
a totally okay?
Yeah, because I like had a specific space, I knew that there had to be like an end. Because most of my writings are like vignettes or like just kind of pieces that I'll like reference later and kind of like stitch together. But this, I was like, there has to be some sort of like tentative resolution,
right?
In the time that I was given.
Yeah, that's actually a good topic. I my own story, I was really searching for an ending, and that was one thing I was struggling with. I was like, what's the point of this story? Yeah. I wrote something, and then it wasn't going anywhere. So yeah, I think that's maybe, I don't know if it's necessarily the timer specifically that does it, but you know, if you're submitting a short story to this thing, right? Yeah, you feel like it needs to,
that someone's going to be there,
right? Exactly. And someone needs to finish this, right? And
which is personally why I think I like it the most, is because the time constriction in itself makes me focus on different things I wouldn't normally in my writing. So when I start, I have to think about the end. And I have to think about, of course, the beginning, and then the nitty bits in the middle. And I know when I normally write, it's very ranty, I guess.
Yeah.
It just goes on.
It trails off.
It trails off, which is just how my mind works. And I like to read that. Yeah. But I don't know, with the time constriction, it definitely makes me focus a lot more on making a story versus something else. And also with that, I feel that the act of doing this, I feel writing is like a potato, right?
Okay.
And with the 30-minute time constriction, you are slowly shaving off the skin.
Okay.
And you're cleaning it to where you get to the part that you really want, to where your mind is now in that place to where you can create something that's
the core of the potato.
The core of the potato. The delicious gooey bit.
So it's really gooey bit.
Ooh.
Yeah. Have you never had a gooey potato?
It's a yogurt textured potato.
While you were peeling it?
Yeah,
it's a really hot knife.
Yeah, or like you just have really hot hands.
Okay. You know, I was slightly worried that we wouldn't have as many goofs this episode, but those worries are gone.
Yeah, good. Goof it up.
Do I strike you as a very serious person?
No, well, everything you say is important.
Oh.
Shit.
That's terrifying.
That's a huge compliment.
Okay. It feels like everything you say is thought out because you actually measure your words before you say them. So
yes,
which is a skill that
none of us have mastered. Hence why we have a podcast that goes on for 2 hours.
Exactly. We can't measure words on here. We have to speak to the masses.
I feel like because there's an audience of other people.
Yeah,
I measure out my words a lot more. Like when I'm sitting at home alone.
And talking to yourself.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, wait. No,
I don't talk to yourself by yourself.
Do you talk to yourself?
No. When I filled in talk to yourself, it wasn't like, oh, no, you talk to yourself. It's pointing out that, if you're talking to yourself, there is no reason to measure any words because it's just your thoughts.
Yeah.
True.
Well, so, kind of.
What I'm saying is that,
it's still, constricted by language.
Well, what I'm saying is that by cutting back the statement, by trying to cut back the statement of I only measure my words when I have an audience, that means that literally it doesn't mean anything, is what I'm saying. Because anytime you talk to someone, you have an audience.
Exactly.
True, but you are more comfortable with certain audiences versus others.
Yeah,
I think that's why you have to measure.
Look, I just say whatever shit pops in my head.
The attention span that you have, like, that you gauge for someone else, definitely, like, shifts.
I mean, I exaggerated so, but, you know what? Okay, so anything else that we want to talk about before we get into the rest of the...
We didn't even talk about the words. It's all good.
It's okay. We talk about the words specifically before the stories.
True.
So,
well, I guess so. We also
this is a format switch.
We're doing this for too long. So.
Yeah, exactly. We're at almost 20 minutes right now. So
exactly.
Let's move in. So anything else about the community? We had a lot of writers this week. We had 19 writers that weren't us three, so 21 total, which is, I think, the most that we've had so far.
But yes.
I think it is.
No, we had the very first week of Doof. I specifically remember us having 32 stories.
That's not possible. No. I think we had 32 comments. There's no way that we had 32 individual stories.
Maybe 32 comments. Either way, we had a huge influx of writers, and they're all fantastic. So I'm very thankful that y'all keep writing in every week. And we also had a good amount of comments. Me and Matthias was talking about how we would love to see a little bit more comments, especially on the ones that are later on. But we are hypocritical in that idea because we do not comment ourselves.
Yeah. So it's a struggle that, I mean, in our defense, we have a podcast where we talk about at least 5 stories. So you can kind of consider those comments.
So it's honestly your fault that we're not commenting.
I wouldn't say it like that. But I will absolutely think, I know that Generous Nat, and I think, I very much apologize if I'm guessing the wrong person. I think it was also Kippos that wrote a lot of comments. So thank you guys, and anyone else that wrote comments on other people's posts, because feedback is super important and makes you feel appreciated and makes you want to do the right thing.
And also, it's important for both people, the people that are giving the feedback and the people that are receiving the feedback, because being able to give feedback onto someone else's thing shows a crucial understanding of someone else's ideas, which also can just enhance your own mind and filter out some of your ideas a little bit more. So
thank you to everyone that gave feedback to someone else, and if you didn't, it's okay, but try that next time. Right?
We are slightly disappointed, but we are disappointed like that parent when you make a B instead of an A.
I think it's like a B plus. It's like an 89, and it's like
it's like damn.
Yes, it rounded up, but come on, you can give yourself more of a buffer,
Fear.
Even though personally, I feel if my kid comes home with B's, I'd be like, "You're doing great, son," because grades don't matter.
What if
I like that mentality.
What if we're in a society where B's are failing?
If B's...
You mean my world?
Well, here's the fundamental issue with American schooling. Let me just talk about this for a little bit.
We already discussed this on the Doof and Chill stream. We solved it. We solved education.
True. But all I'm saying is that a B means that you understand 80% of what was taught. That's so much. That's most of it.
Or it means that you know 80% of how to do the things that they told you to do.
Exactly. And I think that's plenty. Especially if it's something that you don't care about. If I was 80% good at building houses, that's a strong house.
They'd hire me. No. I feel like that would be a hazard. Okay.
I mean, to be fair, houses that are built 60%, just without the last little bits, very interesting.
Are they?
Yeah.
It sounds like
they're hollow.
Okay, do you mean like it's been built, 60% of it has been completely built, is what you're saying?
Yeah, the foundation is done, just the finishing bits.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not painted, there are no windows.
It's one of those aesthetically unfinished.
It is one of those houses that you'll definitely find a person shooting a meth in.
Or someone painting.
And
either or.
Painting with meth.
All right, let's go ahead and jump into the stories. The first one this week is Jarvis, of course.
I'm always first.
Jarvis, what do we need to know going into your story?
Going into my story, the very first time that I wrote it, I was just writing it because I had time, and I was inebriated, which is great. I want to take after Hemingway.
Right, of course.
Write drunk, edit sober.
Right.
But so the very first time that I wrote it, I didn't use any of the words whatsoever.
So you didn't do the right thing.
I didn't do the right thing. But then I went back and I realized, oh, these are very easy words to fit in. Leg.
Yeah.
Comb. Unbecoming. Easy shit, right?
Snow.
I didn't use snow because mine takes place in space, and I don't think it snows in space.
Well, the thing is about snow is that I realized when I was getting down to write it, it was like, it can be an environmental thing, but you could just describe literally anything as white as snow, right? Or cold as snow.
True, yeah.
So it's very versatile, actually.
I see. Well, I wasn't thinking of that.
That's okay.
Excuse me, I almost died.
Okay.
But yeah, so I think it's okay. When I first started writing it, I just had the idea of the look down mostly. Because I think last night I was watching Akira for like the 20th time.
It's come up a lot recently.
It has, yeah.
Specifically on this podcast.
Well, I think it came up a lot because we've gotten a little bit more information about the live action rendition.
I brought it up because we had Ruben on, and I was calling Ruben out for not watching Akira,
which is very sad.
Yeah,
personally, I don't think I can actually talk to someone if they haven't watched.
Clarence,
Akira.
have you seen Akira?
Is it like a?
Oh my god!
Movie?
Oh,
it is a movie. Yes, it's an animated movie.
It's a very good animated movie.
I have not.
It's the
Do you
first.
have Hulu?
This is the second week we're going to talk about it. It's the second.
I know that's like the whole thing of like Spotify and Hulu, but.
Oh, I don't. I hate the ads. I can't watch with the ads. But Akira is basically the first anime movie that came to America, basically.
Yeah.
Oh. When did it
1988, I think.
But it's like one of the best anime movies that's come out since then too.
And the art style is so beautiful.
It's really dark. It's really gory.
It's not that good.
Yes, it is.
It's bio horror. I think body horror.
And maybe more emphasis on that. But there is some heavy gore, at least in one particular scene I'm picturing.
And then also subtle religious context. So it's nice.
I don't like paying attention to that part. I just like thinking of it as weird and cool.
Oh.
Okay.
You don't like religious horror?
Well, no. It's just it's the idea of becoming God.
Yes.
Which I really gravitate towards that. So.
Okay.
No, like if you listen to Gojira, like most of the songs are either about becoming God or exploring space or becoming the monster that you knew that you really were. And
these are all the same thing to me.
Exactly. And I just love that aesthetic. But none of that is in my story.
So yeah, let's okay. So anything else we need to know going into it?
There's nothing else. I can just start. The title of this one is A Gram of Dust. They treated my lab like shit. Wasn't too state of the art based on the fact that research was a secondary priority. But millions of dollars of precious metals and new elements was in there with those hypocritical animals. They couldn't tell a test tube from a beaker, and there they were picking through documents and vials like they're window shopping for a new suit. One of their goons cleared the table of my most important research with a slide of the arm, placed an oversized rifle and a couple of bags on it before his pals did the same. They were too buddy-buddy to be seen as anything else than flunkies and Sigma U's, high-fiving, combing and flaunting their gangly beards, and even popping the seams out of their black, bug-eyed suits. Children. There were 7 of them rifling round my little office, and upwards of 10 watching me and my colleagues in an adjacent viewing room. They had us huddled in the middle, strapped to each other, and dog zappered up. A man and a gun for each of us. Whenever we'd dock, all those excited newly grads would flood into here to marvel at our spoils, took notes, and asked so many good questions. I remember the sparkle they all had, their sole goal being right here with me. Simon made it. Was flunking out when I met him. Lost the drive and all that. But over coffee, he seemed to turn over a new leaf. Found a love he once had under the pretense that we aren't just scientists, but explorers. Heroes, even. Now Simon and a few others are bleeding out in the corner of the room, gargling up stray bullets. I try and think he got out in all the commotion. Both me and my tech, Whitney, were sat a little bit farther from the rest, out in the open, way from the pack, where the most eyes could train on us. Truth be told, no matter how unbecoming it is to say, we were abundantly more important than the others. In the conceptualization of this entire operation, our names were muttered first and last. Everyone else was an assistant to Whitney or I, half honored to be working with us. Working in general, probably. They weren't the first choice, or the fourth in some cases. I mean, we promised a possibly one-way ticket past Soon-Tress, and through that little black dot in space we've been staring at for decades would definitely drive away the smartest minds we have. From behind us, the twitchy wheel of a cart and a fury of footsteps echoed down the hall. One of the more highly ranked goons kicked the probably open door in. His mile-long black boot warped the center of the steel door out. He held it open, and 4 others came in, each having a firm hand on the silver table and the body bag sprawled along it. They barged in to the lab and transferred the bag on to the makeshift operating table Whitney and I suited up. I never thought pirates would come knocking on the door of our little ship. Fool's optimism on my part. But the thought led me to make the lab as personal to myself as possible. It had posters and collectibles, awards, and a great deal of CDs. Even that French press Whitney gifted me. All of it thrown aside and crushed trying to get to the safe. I left it unlocked for easy access. What person would lock up something they go into every hour on the hour? 2 plain-dressed goons reached in and carried out the vial. 123-XYB, a collection of God particles condensed in the void of space. It was the crown jewel of the ship. That measly gram of dust could be the key to human evolution. Shit could bring this whole goddamn existence into a higher plane. One of the goons stepped over to me, tapped the muzzle of the gun along my leg and neck, before grabbing my reins and dragging me into the room. Each one looked at me like I stole something, forcing me to unzip the bag. He looked good. Not a hint of rot or age. The man or boy was halfway between every race. Gaunt, but not too much. The hair on his face and chest was coarse and brittle, as if frozen and glued back on. He seemed older, not age-wise, but as if he was from the 20th century. Strong features and a thick brow. Minded me a lot of those paper photographs my great-grandmother cherished. Mama Colcha. He gestured to the center of his chest, something deep in the peach fuzz. I brushed it aside to see a silver pinhole, small and metallic, clearly placed and sterile, as if it's the most important part about him. Either way, they wanted alive. Forced the cork off 123-XYB and set the tools out in front of me. Knowing how this kind of thing worked, I gathered the particle and liquefied it in my Stewart spinner. Would I be of any use once the particles are all used up? Yes, I know the source location and how to care for them, but me and my assistants left impeccable notes that could lead a blind man to gold. Whitney would be fine. Without any of these machines, the particles are more unstable than useful. So that's good. One of us will see a guaranteed tomorrow. So that's good. As I extracted it into the syringe, the liquid sparkled white and gold. Even had this light coming off of it. Shine brighter than Soon-Tris. I looked up at Whitney as soon as the liquid shot into the corpse. Fear. Not of the unknown, but what we do know. The particles will work in every way, shape, form, and fashion the Black Crown bio-terrorist group dreamed of. We were meddling with things hands shouldn't touch, have traveled through horrors and seen the remaining sparks of the Big Bang, even the first tendrils of the Big Crush. But we never played mad scientist. Never sacrificed anything other than time for results. But sadly, as you can see, that was always Black Crown's forte. And now they've given a little sliver of God eyes and lungs. And as soon as that thing opened its eyes, and the pupils was masked over white, I knew we had done the equivalent of picking the forbidden fruit from the tree.
Awesome story, Jarvis. This is one of my favorites in a while, I think.
I've been on a really shit streak recently.
That might be part of it. Maybe it's just you're away from the All Hallows place that for some reason you don't like writing in, but you do.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed this sci-fi tale. It's interesting. It feels almost like the scene of a prologue. Like I could definitely see it happening. You know, this is like, we know that something terrible is about to happen.
It's like in media res, and then you like go back and see them kind of like develop it, sort of thing.
Yeah,
and then suddenly you're like, oh, this is like who they are and the motivations behind everything.
Right.
Yeah.
And you end with like awakening a god or something.
Yeah.
And and then there's it feels like there's a story after that happens.
Definitely. That story, I have no clue what it is.
No, just that's the writer's path.
Yeah.
So I have one main critique that I want to start out with, is that, and this is, listeners, if you're tired of me saying this, please let me know and I will find something else to talk about next time. But this sounds very similar to some of your other characters.
Okay, yes. Yes, it does.
There's a couple of places in particular that I was like, I don't know if a scientist would phrase it this way. Maybe it's just the overall vibe, and maybe I'm just like too attached to your normal.
It definitely like had the kind of how does it? There's like a particular like, not quite like cyberpunk, but this sort of like adventuresome character that like has this knowledge, but is also like off to go do some sort of journey. That was the kind of tone that it felt.
Like they had a goal beyond just now. Okay.
Yeah. And then there was just, it's just, you know what, maybe there's a small chance, a super tiny chance, that I'm biased because I've read so many of your detectives and your teenage boys with the same tone.
Teenage boys?
Like the last couple.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe I'm just carrying over that tone to this. I mean, maybe like a couple parts at the beginning, like saying that they were too buddy-buddy, to be seen as anything else than flunkies and Sigma U's. The Sigma U's in particular, that's like a reference to the fraternity boys, right?
Yes.
Okay. That one in particular, I was like, that seems like a weird way to describe the pirates that are boarding your ship.
Yeah. Very fratty, apparently.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, I was just wondering what... It seems like there might be ways that you could go back and change up some of the language to make it more sciencey.
Yeah, and well, I feel that really boils down to figuring out what this character or like who they are, right? Because I don't want it to be sciencey. Because I feel that, of course, someone can be a scientist, but they can still be a pretty chill person.
Yeah, no, what I meant by that, I as I said that, I was like, well, I don't mean to just like add in technobabble. I mean like just have. I mean, this is an educated person, right?
Exactly.
So I'm wondering like how might that influence their voice and stuff like that.
I feel that I'd need to probably either go all the way one way with it or all the way the other way. Mm-hmm. So definitely just add a lot more character to this person. If I do want to keep the line about the flunkies and the like Sigma U's, probably input a lot of that kind of diction throughout it. Yeah. Because this is told from their perspective. Mm-hmm. So I feel there is a balance to be struck there.
I mean, there's a couple where, like, it's definitely your voice, but it fits exactly the tone of what I would think this kind of arrogant, intellectual type to say. Like,
They're very, like, plucky.
Yeah. But there's a couple where, like, the arrogance comes through the voice that I think works really well. Like, I left it unlocked for easy access. What person would lock up something they go into every hour on the hour? Which I really like that line just by itself. Mm-hmm. But I like that line as, like, it's something that fits your voice perfectly, but it tells a different character than usual, I think. And you have a couple others that are just... I don't have them listed, but yes, there's other places like this.
Also, like... when you use the unbecoming of, like, we're the most important, you know. Even, you know. But it was interesting because there was, like, a bit of, like, self-awareness there that, like, wasn't present in some of the other moments that I thought was kind of interesting, that I liked. That there was... that whoever... they, like, accepted their own positionality, but then also, like...
Yeah,
like, I'm going to be arrogant anyway.
The line is, truth be told, no matter how unbecoming it is to say, we were abundantly more important than the others. In the conceptualization of this entire operation, our names were muttered first and last. Like, that's exactly... Yeah. I was thinking of that line, where I think you use unbecoming completely naturally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I really like that word placement, and it's on the side that I would like it to be in the voice.
Because, I mean, like, I was kind of going back and forth as to how arrogant or how, like, confident this person is in their actual abilities. Because, yes, of course, no one else on the ship is qualified because they're all, like, second and fourth string people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because the smartest minds on Earth don't want to have a one-way ticket into space. It's spelling doom. So, of course, that would make this character arrogant, but I don't want it to be all the way one way, I guess. Only because just having a arrogant character without having the other side of it doesn't make for a good character. It is a character trait, not a character I find.
All right, so let's move on to a different comment. I like the concept in general. Mm-hmm. I really like this idea of just grabbing some God particles.
God particles.
Yeah, so I was just interested. I mean, there's a couple parts where, like, I would have liked a little bit more clarification on what's happening. Like, I wasn't sure if the body of the... I don't know what the body is in particular. I know that they're putting the God particles in it and it's getting kind of possessed by that. But I don't know if it's, like, from them, from the pirates, or if it's from the scientists, or, like, what the significance of it is. So
I don't know either.
Okay,
but I find, of course, on a second run through, I would definitely probably figure that out. I mean, I think the reason why I started in this place is because I realized in a lot of the previous things that I write, and also things I write in my personal life, start too fucking early. Okay. Start at the beginning when you wake up, which is not when you're supposed to start, unless there's
he
a reason
used air quotes when he said not supposed to start.
Yeah. Recently, I actually watched this video of Kurt Vonnegut talking about a story structure,
right?
Which I really, really loved, and just how arcs go and how a person can start from a low point, high point, all that jazz. But also, he has a quote that says, I think it's by him, you should start as close to the end as possible.
Yeah.
Which I absolutely love.
Just kind of work backwards.
Exactly. Because you start with the hook. You start in the thick of things, and that's when people can gravitate to it and really latch on to that.
I think by that he doesn't just... Kurt Vonnegut didn't just mean to start at the end. It's just to start as close to the end as you can, like in the beginning, middle, end structure. Like, like if it's, if there's a battle, don't start in the preparations before the battle.
Start when the battle starts.
Start at the first blow or at the charge or whatever.
Yeah.
Which honestly just overall makes for a better read, and it's a great way to filter through ideas, because I find that the way that I write, it's very much so like starting up a car. Right.
Okay.
So it's like starting up a car, but I am the AC filter.
Okay.
Because when you first start the car and you want like hot air, it's blowing cold ass air. But after you're driving around a little bit, after you've gone through the person waking up in the morning, them getting their coffee, them meeting their friends, and then you get to the inciting incident of, oh, hot damn, they've been dead the whole time. That's when the heat starts blasting.
Okay.
And that is when I think a story should start.
You know what? I think that analogy kind of did work.
Yeah.
The same person that I was talking about before, Marilyn Robinson, she came to give a talk to the people, the first years or whatever here. And she was talking about writing our way into purpose, which makes sense with her whole mentality of not revising.
Right.
Sort of.
Semi.
I guess.
I guess it's not revising, but it's editing.
But the notion of just kind of working your way through all of these approximations before you kind of reach where you want to be.
Right. You kind of circle it before you get to it. Yeah, I get that.
Then you have all this material that you can use other places or that sort of thing.
Which is exactly what doing the right thing is for. It's for the churning, because you're going to create a lot of garbage while you're doing the right thing. Yeah. But some of that garbage will be useful to you.
I mean, honestly, garbage in of itself, there's always great food inside of it.
Actually, short tangent. Today, as of recording, it's the second day of November, which is NaNoWriMo.
NaNoWriMo.
Is that how you say that?
Yeah, NaNoWriMo.
Oh, okay.
What did you think it was?
I think I always said NaNoWriMo.
Yeah,
that sounds awesome.
NaNoWriMo works too. I like Rimo though. So for those who don't know, NaNoWriMo is National Novel Writing Month, which it's a kind of half acronym. It's the first syllable of every one of those words. But anyway, so the goal is that you set the goal to write, 1,300 words every day and write 50,000 words by the end of the month. That's the end goal. It doesn't... Dividing it up just ends up being that many words. Anyway, I'm not doing it because I don't have any time. But anyone who is, I absolutely commend you because it's a worthy goal.
Yeah,
it's always exciting to read.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to do mine during winter break because we have almost exactly a whole month.
Same.
So I'm gonna set my own NaNoWriMo 1 month after NaNoWriMo.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you guys are writing it, I know some people are using their Do the Right Thing stories as a basis for it, which is really
great.
Cool. Yeah.
Is there a lot of continuity between
their stories?
Most recently, yeah. For the last couple of episodes, there have been a couple people that I think they're on their third or fourth entry in it.
One of our submitters, it's the fourth. One of the chapters, I guess is what I'll call them, it was written for just / writing prompts, which is just writing prompt subreddit. And then another one was from us or something like that, which I think is really cool. It's an interesting format thing. And I know, Jarvis, you actually had a couple in a row as well.
You
had 2 in a row.
the week before that, the first episode of Halloween and the second episode of October and the second episode of October, I did do a back-to-back, and I was supposed to make a third.
Okay, glad you didn't.
I'm going to, though.
Okay.
Mostly because I had this great idea, right? What if I just take those and I take all of the things that we said on the podcast and all of the feedback and apply it?
Okay.
Revisit, re-edit both of them, and then make a third section.
All right, sure. I would love to see it.
And then not show it to anyone.
Okay, I can't wait.
The idea is inherently stupid.
I don't know if you should describe it that way, but we're getting a little too far off topic. Yeah. What else do we want to say about your story this week? Clarence, do you have anything?
I previously was talking about how, like, I was unexpected that everything was, like, much more, a lot of the focus of the stories was much more, like, fanciful. Mm-hmm. Or not fanciful, but, like, fantasy type, you know?
Yes. Yeah. That is a definitely very strong theme in our fan base, is that we write a lot of fantasy and sci-fi stories.
Also because it's an easy end.
Yeah, I feel like
it's easier to get towards those emotions that you're trying to create in those scenes.
I think it's just more practical in that, like, if you're reaching for random words, it's a lot easier if you can just throw physics away and bring them in. And just that Jarvis and I set the expectation, I think. But yeah, it's funny because usually it's our guests that have more literary, like, realistic kind of writing.
Yeah.
Because our guests are real writers.
Yeah. Like I think the other two best writers that aren't Doofcast that we had on would be Taylor Hoyt and Zoe Weiner, and they both wrote realistic stories that were really, really good.
Yeah, one was a Southern Gothic.
It was good. You should listen to that episode. Was it? Do you remember? It's like 14 or something.
Pretty sure it's
17.
No, I'm pretty sure that's episode 12.
Taylor is 12.
Okay.
Hold on, I'm gonna look at our Stitcher.
Was that one not the Southern Gothic? I guess.
No, Zoe's was the Southern Gothic.
Yeah. Oh. There must be 16 then.
Zoe was on episode 16. Mm-hmm. Which the words for that were Hellish, Army, Scarecrow, and Wake. It's very good. You should listen to that one.
That's very, like...
Yes.
Yeah, very. Yes. I distinctly remember me not liking my story for that week.
I think... Oh, well, I mean, for you and me, isn't that, like... It's a flip of a coin, right? Like,
yeah. Either it's a good week or it's a really bad week.
But that's okay. We're getting better. Okay, anything else we can say about the story?
Anyways, so...
Yes.
And I feel like with that kind of, those, like, genres, it's really hard sometimes to, like, get movement that, like, feels like action that, like, actually feel like you can, like, get the rhythm going really fast. Mm-hmm. And I feel like yours was definitely, like, you immediately kind of, like, jumped into it. Mm-hmm. And it felt like the reader was, like, naturally kind of, like, enfolded into that. Mm-hmm. Which... I guess that's kind of like what you were talking about in the, like, beginning at the end, kind of in media res sort of thing. But
yeah, definitely.
But it felt very, like, natural, and, like, the rhythm of, like, the language that you used, kind of like the vernacular, I suppose, made it so, I would say.
Yeah,
I know you guys were, like, debating about, like, scientific sort of discourses versus, like, more like colloquial, but I think
what I mean with that is just that, like, the intellectual sounding, like, the, like, setting him apart in voice from the other people in the room, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah.
But I feel like, I mean, if you think about, like, the astronauts who, like, went to space, and I think of them because I was watching some, like, point of view where they love the, like, Apollo 8, where they, like, made all these home video type things. I mean,
home video in
obviously
space.
Not home videos, but they
space
kind of like
videos.
Kids falling off trampolines in space.
That they have this sort of like complex, I guess.
Yeah,
because they are this kind of like apart from their.
So they have like a certain sense of like ego.
Yeah, I would say.
Okay. I mean,
also just like in general.
You've been to fucking space. I would.
Yeah. You are in a very, very small percentage.
Yeah. How can I talk to anyone else? You haven't seen the movie.
Are you a spaceman?
Yeah. No. Do you have a moon rock on you right now?
Okay.
Yes.
So
yes, I do.
Well, all
I
of
have a
that.
story about that, but it'll like derail the conversation.
Thank you for having the power to hold yourself back. We don't have that skill. So with all that said, Jarvis, if you were to rewrite the story, what would you change?
All right.
He's doing some poses.
Starting at the beginning.
He's doing kind of like a reverse motion.
I do like where it started. I wanted if I had like a lot more time.
I did really like the plot. I want to reiterate that. I really like the plot and what's happening.
The visual description of the like chest hair.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful.
Because chest hair is always
Clarence is doing an
disgusting.
okay hand. This is an audio medium. I'm the closed caption for this audio medium.
But yeah, so I would probably go back and really figure out how much I want to turn into the playing God aspect of it, because I feel that it's a very typical thing. You know, it's done a whole bunch of times in so many horror movies and books and all that, but I do like it. I feel there is a way to possibly take that route without it being way too preachy.
Sure.
Because it typically borders on, we shouldn't play God. And I feel we totally should play God.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah, like, why not? But,
I mean, I can think of a couple of reasons why not, but I also disagree with some of those reasons.
Sure.
So.
But, yeah, I would go back. The first paragraph I think is pretty solid. I would like to add a lot more description of the lab itself and the viewing room, because in my mind I knew exactly what it was, because I've been in a like viewing room with a lab, but it's very boring. It's like dark and gray, and it's like hard to really find anything that's overtly visual that I can really grasp onto and explain, fill it out. And I will want to figure out what the suit of these bioterrorists look like. Because I wrote down black suits and bug-like. That can mean anything.
That's very like...
It's mysterious.
I feel like that is a good basis, and then you just need like one key detail to flesh out the rest. Like, do they actually have like bug eyes, or
like,
is it just like... Is it like slick kind of fabric? What like?
I was thinking like...
Yes.
Have you seen Spider-Man Far From Home?
I have not.
No.
Do you know the Spider-Man noir suit?
Yes.
You take that, and then instead of the mask having eyes, they're just black.
Okay.
And that's what I saw in my head, but it's not translated whatsoever. But yeah, I want to go back and probably work on that, and then figure out what I was doing in the middle with Simon, because I feel that there was definitely something there about the main character recounting the great moments that happened in that room, and feeling a certain sense of remorse for the now dead Simon, and hoping and wishing that he got out, even though they overtly know that they did not. But that section didn't, I feel, connect to anything else that was happening.
Yeah, it was kind of like a moment of like stillness.
Exactly. Yeah, which I do want that moment where like you can just be in that moment and really feel what is happening. But instead of doing that, I might describe the whole hostage-esque situation a little bit more. But
okay,
those would be my major changes. And then on a second edit, of course, it's going to get better.
Of course.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, let's transition to me.
Yeah, Matisse time.
So I'm not going to say that much before we start, because we are running out of time and I have a thing to go to. So
yeah, you have a thing to go to in an hour and a half.
And, well, more like 60 minutes, because I got to get over there. And
you can teleport?
I cannot teleport anymore. Wizards banned me. So, anyway, so this story, it was written late at night, and it's not perfect. I more had a tone I was going for, and I had multiple attempts of like things that I almost played out. And I think you'll find a pretty clear like tone shift about 2/3 of the way through, and then the last third is just kind of like I needed to find an ending. So we'll talk about that after I read it. The story is called Grooming. The metal comb pulls roughly at his hair, and the hairs tug roughly at his scalp. They are his downfall, because when he escapes notice for a while, they get curly again, and they notice. He wants to cut it all off with a knife he found between the floors, but they'd be mad about that. Claire cut her hair off one night, and Theo hasn't seen her since then. The dressing room has a hollow wood floor, and dark wooden walls with a polished sheen to them, but they reflect nothing but the dull light from the small, glassy window. Outside, Theo can only see the flurries of snow, a gray mist thicker than water, swaddling and smothering the conservatory. It washes against the window like waves, hiding the world. It's impossible to tell that they're on the second floor. The sun is just a slightly brighter spot of gray amidst grays. Or maybe it's the moon that shines so dully. Theo isn't sure these days. His head jerks sideways with the comb in spite of his efforts to remain rigid. He snaps his head back in place and freezes, and now he's rigid all over. A thin hand, like bones tipped with nails, the iron kind, slides from his neck to cup his chin. They are cold. Colder than snow, like a monster's hands, even though Theo knows she's not a monster. She's not a real monster, she's just an adult. Miss Pinkerton's voice is a slithering, high-pitched whisper, like the wind that screeches through the gap in the window of the dorm room. "Now, Theo, squirming is unbecoming of a child. Stay still, boy." "Yes, Mistress Pinkerton," Theo says, in as politely a voice he can manage. He can manage it well, and he knows how weird it would probably look for a boy who was so tense and rigid to sound so normal. But he does, because Theo gets in trouble a lot, and he's good at making his trouble less very bad. The cold, cold fingers grip his chin hard, bulging the flesh. The cold seeps into him. "Are you being insolent, child?" "No, Mistress Pinkerton," Theo says, and it is hard, so hard to keep his voice level, even while the cold fingers push at his throat. It used to be that tears would pressure under his eyes, and they would bulge into his throat, but they don't do that anymore. Sometimes Theo wonders where they went. He can feel a draft drift around his feet. The cold prickles at the beads of sweat at his back. It's cold outside, too. Maybe that's why Miss Pinkerton's fingers are so cold. The fingers release his chin. No admission of mistake, no hint that she isn't going to walk away right now to get the ropes. Theo keeps himself rigid. The comb returns to his hair. First the metal tongs scraping his scalp, then the yank. Release. Scrape, yank, release. He can feel individual hairs snap in ones and twos. He wonders if eventually he'll look like George, whose hair is see-through thin, and now he doesn't need to comb it more than 1 or 2 strokes. Theo isn't sure if he wants that to happen or not. It would make things easier. He feels twisty inside, but he always does now. He wants a comb to pull through his insides and straighten them out. He wonders, right then, without thinking of the consequences, if doing something like that would make him have to go to the bathroom. He almost lets himself smile, and the shock of white, cold terror stamps a boot on the feeling and smothers it as quick as he can. The hand releases his neck. He can feel her straighten behind him, feel her towering, feel his heartbeat. Then she leaves the room, her footsteps echoing on the hollow wooden floor. Theo is frozen in the chair, hands unmoving in his lap. She could just be leaving to do something else. Or she could be getting something to punish him. Not the ropes. The ropes are in this room, so it's not them. Maybe the switch? He shivers involuntarily. Or maybe she's not punishing him, and instead he's supposed to follow her. But no, surely she would have said something if it was that option. Though it could be that she dismissed him, and he didn't notice, and maybe he's supposed to go clean, and when she comes back, she'll ask him, in a sliding, scraping whisper, why he's being lazy. He feels the urge to get up and move. But it could be that she just wants him to stay still, and if he's up and moving, she'll punish him. Safer to stay still. Safer, but not safe. Not safe at all. Theo hardly breathes as he sits in the hard wooden chair. The hands in his lap have all the color drained from them. His insides are a knot more complicated than the one on the toy chest, the kind where the fraying of the rope makes the edges of thread indistinct, coated in layers of foggy fray, fused together in a ball of hair. But those insides are distant, wrapped layers and layers deep in his lungs. They make his breathing shallower, but he can still breathe clearly. At the window, the fog of snow presses at the glass. He feels he can see the hands in the shifting gray, hands caressing the glass, beckoning. They look warm, even though they're white, but they're slender and kind-looking. Theo doesn't feel himself stand, but he is standing. He's unlocking the latch and pushing the window up quick so there's no sound. And cold floods the room, exactly like water overflowing, over the lip of the window and down, to pool at his feet. The gray swirls and twists about his feet, and it's like they're pushing him up, to stand on the chair. He's pulled it closer to the window, to stand on the chair and step onto the sill. The cold is all around him and he doesn't feel it, only feels it under his eyes, the beads of water gathering there. Ah, there they are. He's not sure if they're from the fog or from him, but he welcomes them all the same, even though they sting his cheeks from the cold. The fog swirls below him and in front of him, all grays, multitudes of grays and whites all around him like blankets and water. He can't see the ground. He can't see up from down, except when he turns around, holding the edge of the window. The room is so dark, only glimmers from beyond the doorframe. He's dimly aware that they'll notice the draft soon, but that's not important. What's important is that the cool, numbing gray and white tendrils around his chest and pulls him back, and he steps back onto the clouds. The room and the window vanish, and his body parts the fog. Before it takes him, he notices the little curls of the air, and a giggle escapes him, churning as he falls. Okay, so that was my story.
So honestly, I don't know what you've been talking about, saying that the other people that write in to do the right thing are far better writers than you, because you're a fantastic writer, and I greatly enjoyed it. I mean, never before have I been so captivated and honestly related so much to someone combing someone else's hair.
Okay.
Because that is a very important part of my entire life. Like, those moments are the best moments I've ever had with my mother or family or everything. And I liked how you described it. I felt for it. And then, when he walked aside and started to get like a little weird, I totally got it. And I totally followed through, so I really liked it. I really fucked with it.
Yeah, it was really interesting. Because that idea of, combing someone else's hair is usually such, an intimate, warm moment. And it was so imbued with, this...
coldness.
Yeah, and, fear.
So it's like if someone that you don't like is combing your hair.
Yeah.
And that's definitely the feeling that I got from it.
Yeah, it was... Yeah, you were very good at, and the, raking of it was really interesting.
It really grosses me out.
Yeah.
That's why I was writing it. Okay.
Yeah, I really like that. My thought is that I really like the idea of cold that you have that's present there, but I also wanted different approaches to just the actual word cold,
right?
Because it was very present.
Yeah, it was there a little bit. Yeah,
cold.
Yeah, I get that.
Which it's definitely setting up this tone, and I do appreciate that a lot. I would have definitely liked to see other aspects of what's happening there.
Sure.
And also just something a little bit more grounding.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning you did do a great job at describing this place, but as it kept going on, we totally left a lot of the imagery that we can really base it off of.
Right.
Beyond just knowing the scraping and ripping that you talked about.
Sure.
Yeah, it became much more abstracted.
Yes. Yeah. So on that, so basically, I kind of wrote the story at an emotional distance, per the usual in the Matthias writing way.
Yeah, Matthias doesn't like feeling.
That's very accurate. But I'm trying to change that. I was trying to challenge that a little bit by having a slightly not just a normal happy meaning nothing story like I have been doing. So that's why this was trying to get into more negative feelings. And I'm glad that the fear came across because, even though I was definitely aiming for it, I wasn't feeling it at all as I was doing it. Mm-hmm. Which is probably an unhealthy sign, but you know.
But I mean, fear is like a very physical, like, feeling. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I feel like the like attachment of like the fingers on the chin and like that's what makes that like visceral reaction.
I would like the face you're making. It's really disgusting.
Can I just point out I call it a Matthiasism.
Okay, yes.
Because it is a line that I can only see you speaking.
I would love to hear this, yeah.
It is, he feels twisty inside, but he always does now. He wants a comb to pull through his insides and straighten them out. That just seems like the most you thing ever.
Is it? Okay.
Only because the way that the words fall next to each other, the cadence is very similar to how you speak, and I don't know, that idea is something that I see you reaching for a lot. How something physical can help something that is metaphorical.
Okay,
and I really like it. I really like what you did.
That's very high praise. It's always so fun when you find out a little bit more about your own voice because you can't see it yourself. Right?
Yeah, that is very true.
It's very true. Yeah. Okay. That it's actually interesting. Multiple things as I was going through, like, I wasn't really sure what I was trying to say, but I was trying to reach for stuff and trying to bring it back, like the comb. Mm-hmm. Specifically, I was like, okay, twisty feelings. Well, I want to bring back the comb somehow and make it into a different form. So let's have it drive through his insides.
Only thing though, if you put tangled instead of twisted, it'd be a stronger illusion.
You're absolutely correct. Yes. That would have been good. That's a good quick edit. It fixes. Yeah. Yeah.
Words are so fun that way, you know? Mm-hmm. Like, how they're so, like, specific in the way that they feel, like, on the tongue and like, you know? I love that language.
Sucks that English is, like, the worst language.
It's not the worst.
It's not the worst. But it's
got problems.
I would say that it is technically the ultimate language
in terms of like
because
writing,
it is. Yeah.
If I could choose any language to write in, I think I would probably choose Arabic.
Yeah.
Okay. Just because it's pretty looking.
Well, because the vocabulary is so vast.
Yeah, and it's like a wonderful language built for poetry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
I mean, that was the basis.
I don't know shit about Arabic as
that was like one of the. I mean, it wasn't like the founding part of the languages,
but it was definitely like a huge part of it.
Yeah.
Which is why, on the same token, I think that Mandarin is actually a beautiful language if you're reading poetry.
Yeah.
Because one of the crucial things about over time. They would take this test, right? And this test, after you take it, will basically put you where you'll be for the rest of your life within the society. And a huge part, I would say more than, I think 75% of it, is you have to actually write your own poetry in that language. So language in itself is catered towards putting together these untangible ideas and trying to put these emotions on page, which I think is why it's such a beautiful language to just listen to in that aspect.
Yeah.
So you should write Mandarin.
You're right. I should learn Mandarin real quick and then write all my right things
just,
in
it won't
logograms.
It won't take
That's a good idea.
Maybe 2. So the ending. I know as I was reading it, I did get where it was going, but I felt that it was a tad bit sudden.
Sure.
And maybe it's just the way that I read, but I didn't expect it to go there, and it left in this place where I wasn't entirely sure what the main character was feeling. Because the wind wrapping, or the fog that wrapped around them made them giggle. And nowhere previously have we, I guess, set up, like, was it a nervous giggle?
For me...
Because it seemed like something that they wanted to go for.
Well, the giggle, and this just means that I didn't emphasize enough, was that he sees curls in the air.
Yeah.
And so it's a reference to in the beginning, because his hair is normally supposed to be curly. I don't know. But I don't know why he's laughing at it.
So it's
I just felt like
return to normalcy. To
something, to... I don't know.
To something,
no. But the thing is, it is very vague because I didn't know what it was. I wanted to...
And then?
I had the woman leaving, and I was like, something's gotta happen.
Yeah.
And
there was that kind of, like, underlying, like, threat that just kind of, like, fell away.
Yeah.
It kind of got more abstract, and he was, like, out the window.
Yes.
I feel, honestly, now, I could be completely wrong, but I think if you really want to drive the point home, something that I think will be very poignant, maybe even beautiful, is that instead of walking outside into the fog, they just look themselves in the mirror with this new hair, and they just sit there, and they look at this person that they don't recognize, and that can further go towards this fear of possibly change, or this other person.
Yeah.
There was this wonderful line that I read in a book that was like much more like abstract and, different. But this particular line, I think applies like wonderfully. Is I look in my face for my face.
Oh shit!
It's this sort of like because I had this like musing earlier about like being unrecognizable to oneself, of like that kind of trope of sitting in front of the mirror and then suddenly like you see yourself first and then suddenly you're like it slowly like falls away in your recognition. It's just like totally abstracted by looking at the same thing. But yeah, I think that would be really interesting.
And I mean I definitely have that image. There's a very small part where I describe George, which is another kid there, and he's got very thin hair. And I just think there's something really inherently gross about, like, really, like, you can see the scalp in between the strands of hair.
Thin and stringy hair,
Yes, where it's like, just shave it off, please, God.
Just go bald.
But, I think that would be a good way to... Maybe he can, like, consider how long he's been at this place, which I don't know what the place is for, but it's not good news.
Yeah, no, it seemed very...
I mean, it seemed very cold.
Yeah. On cold, I wanted to say that, like, it's interesting because I wasn't intentionally focusing on cold. I just kept describing things that were cold.
Yeah.
So it just kind of turned out that way.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
I think also it would be interesting. It would be a good sort of dichotomy of like the cold on the outside being described differently than the one that was like within.
Right. Maybe like. Yeah. Where
in terms of like maybe like varying like warmth and like
right.
warm and cool,
or stinging versus numbing.
Yeah.
Yes, I can imagine.
Also, ways. I feel that maybe that was one thing that I felt was missing is that you described a lot of things in this one light, and we didn't get the other side.
Okay.
Because with every emotion or situation, it's a lot more complicated. You don't feel only one thing. And I feel that if there was something in that room or just something that the character was thinking that kept them there and gave a reason as to why they're going through this very uncomfortable experience, it would further complicate that character and definitely bring this scene that you're creating to life.
So like maybe if they care about another person, another kid there, or maybe they like one particular teacher, or maybe they like some thing that they do for them. Like maybe the food's fucking awesome. I don't know. Like
honestly,
but like in a like wholesome way, right?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. That's some really good takes.
So going back through it, you had unlimited time, and you're gonna make this so good. You're gonna try and win a Pulitzer with this idea. What would you do? What would you change?
I would follow the things that you guys have said. So just to summing up, it would be to go back, complicate the situation. I like the metaphorical kind of abstractness of the fog and stuff like that, but I think I would try to keep it more of a literary thing, or extend it out where it's like it's repeatedly calling to him for some reason.
Yeah.
And
I think that would be good, earlier on.
Yes.
Because it definitely showed up in the third act.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had meant to slip stuff back in there, but I didn't have time, so it just didn't work out that way. But yes, so that's basically how we go. Not too complicated. So we can move on to the next section. So let's talk about Clarence's fantastic story. No pressure.
No pressure whatsoever.
So what should we know going into your story?
And we don't have to really know anything if you just want it to be as unknown going into it as possible.
All right. I guess I very I like ambiguity.
Ambiguity, okay.
And I walk around with scenes that sit in my head for a while, and these were a few of those scenes.
Okay.
That kind of I was able to tailor into what I do.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
yes.
fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
All right.
He sits in an alcove in the bowels of the library, combing through the pages of a report on menstrual cycles of Mauritanian women that have been long buried in the stacks, trying to focus his eyes on the page. He has been rereading the same paragraph for the last hour and a half. A twinge of dull pain sinks lower in his belly every time he sees the word menstruation. Not me. Not me. Not me. An inscription on the study desk, carved from a student long past, pulls his consciousness away from the clinical dryness of the ethnography already trying his patience, permeating the temporal gap between them. I can feel you, he thinks. He traces the letters with the tip of his finger. Too much shifting for the taste of men. His mind, unbidden, settles on 4 hours earlier. Rumpled curls, a pillow-creased cheek, reluctance hiding under starched childhood sheets. A whispered confession in the not-quite-morning light, souring the quiet air. You taste like sugar, sweet on my tongue, but sure to promise a bitter aftertaste of heartache. I can't last a lifetime of it, lovely. The words he did not say back are rotting beneath his tongue, even as he packs up his book and carefully reshelves the ethnography. You taste of inevitability. He feels foolish now. Perhaps he believed it once, but doubt wormed its way into the folds of his eyes and the curves of his limbs and the air that he breathed. What do I know of eternity, a polished, imagined forever? Hopeful, fearful, drunk on the boldness of youthful love, terrified our might may wilt with time and let discontented complacency take root. He tries not to think of the words they left unsaid. The silence of her dismissal weighs upon his mind heavier than the pithy cruelty. They didn't want you. They were lying. You are not good enough. Your body was not good enough. Your body was not right. You aren't right. You don't fit. He feels his carefully numbed exterior begin to thaw. His nose cold and dripping, his toes frozen, snow accumulating on his knitted hat. He stubs out a cigarette and lights another, pretending the wetness on his cheeks is only from the biting cold outside the library doors. Time for desperate measures. Alcohol. He steps off into the snowy afternoon toward a boy with the voice of thunder. When Anton opens the door, Blaze has his index finger poking the corner of his eye, and he's worrying his bottom lip. The boy moves aside and lets him enter the untethered warmth of the apartment without a word. They move like magnets, unable to bond, fluid, tentative, as Anton puts on a pot of tea on the stove. Blaze can feel the expectant non-silence linger between them, heavy and only slightly bittersweet. He knows his news will poison the precarious nature of the untouched moment. The words crawl up through his throat and claw at the back of his tongue. He swallows. Anton is humming a tune hidden in the folds of Salome off-key, seemingly content to wait for Blaze to speak whatever it is eating him into utterance. "She don't want to keep on," Blaze mumbles finally, after the tea has been brewed and they are hovering by the kitchen counter. "It's funny how foolishly hopeful I was this time." He tries not to think of what they are both avoiding, what he told her not to mention again, can feel the ache of want in his own belly, something to grow, make, mold, nurture. "We're all rather young anyway," Anton brushes Blaze's side with his hip, a reassurance even as his lips purse in temporary disdain. "We aren't fully realized yet. We are always becoming, love. Perhaps there'll be another." "I don't begrudge her the decision," he declares quickly. "It's not my body. I just wish I could instead," he finishes in his head. The air tilts, and the warmth seeping into his bones from the tea evaporates. Fingers tighten on his wrist, and Anton drags him down to sprawl across the kitchen floor, legs overlapping haphazardly and nose tucked into Blaze's neck. "I'm sorry, babe. I would if I could." Burden, burden, burden. Why are you so caught up in a dream?
I absolutely loved it.
That was beautiful.
After reading it, I had to actively engage my brain.
Yeah.
I was like, what is the meaning? Let's dig.
It works on both levels, where it's just an entertaining read just because of the poetry of it.
Yeah.
And then of course on the analytical level of trying to parse exactly what's being said. I think I would describe this as poetry.
I tend towards poetry.
Yeah.
Much more.
I mean, I can definitely see what you meant by holding towards the abstract.
Yeah.
And I think it's done really well, because you strike this balance where it is abstract, but there are enough pieces that are very grounded and real, to where I don't find myself getting lost too much.
Right.
There is a certain sense of lostness, but I can tell that that's probably purposeful in some way. So.
So one thing the first thing that I want to talk about, and Jarvis and I were talking to each other about it as you were reading. I don't know how you carried this across while you were reading, because we didn't listen in. But you have multiple kinds that you set text apart, right?
Yes.
You have two kinds of dialogue. You have the quotations of normal dialogue, and then you also have italics dialogue at the end.
Yes.
And then you also have the brackets.
Yeah.
So I would love to go into the choices of all those.
So since I'm very visual, which I feel kind of plays into this sort of zine culture.
Right.
Is it's very visual in terms of how the words sit. And the brackets were more so his own thoughts, that he was actually trying to avoid.
Okay.
Or those sorts of thoughts, which there was in the first paragraph, I used the strike through for menstruation, which kind of like mirrored that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Of like, these are the things that he like is constantly thinking, but is constantly trying to not think.
Right.
And then like the quotations were...
Yeah, I wanted to know what the difference was between the quotation dialogue and the italics dialogue.
Yeah, the italic dialogue was like in the moment, like present.
Okay.
And I don't remember if did I use the quotation dialogue in the...
For the initial, for when they're in the bed.
Okay, yeah, so that was kind of like a flashback, but it didn't have continuity, which I should probably fix, because I also had like the inscription in
yes,
that, so
there's just a little bit of
there was a little bit of like a disconnect.
Well, it's interesting because to me, quotations are a lot more present and real in a scene. Like I can hear them in a voice, where italics are almost like a telling sort of quotation to me. Of course, in a different story that might carry across differently. So it's interesting that the more present day one is the one in italics with a kind of distance with it, rather than the quotation one. Yeah. So interesting.
Yeah. Well, because like the entire time his like mentality is is that sort of like he feels like disconnected
right.
from the present and like what he's doing. And he's kind of like constantly sitting there thinking about this scene of this woman who's like,
right,
like, I'm done. I can't deal with this anymore.
Just down with the fan. It's screaming. Okay, so to move on to a different thing, so more about theme. So obviously you have multiple themes in here.
Yes.
One more, I don't know if explicit is the right word, but like one that like the character seems to be focusing. Okay, I guess not even on theme, but like the plot level, the problem that he's going through. I might be misunderstanding this, but I want to look at it anyway. So the main character, right? So there's this line here. Can feel the ache of wanting to feel in his own belly something to grow, make, mold, nurture, which I thought I really like. There's been other stories for Do the Right Thing where they've done the like alternating words thing, and I love it every time. But that seems to me like he wants to become pregnant, right?
Yeah. Okay. Like, so she is pregnant or like was pregnant or something like that. And since it's like also very attached to like this idea of youthful love being like the disconnect of what he is imagining versus what she's imagining this love to be, is that she wants this kind of like frivolous sort of, you know, like ephemeral kind of thing.
And he wants it to be eternity.
Yeah, but then it's also like wrapped up in his own like gender identity.
Right. I picked, okay, so I was just worried that I had let that way off.
No, yes, that's so, what you're supposed to grasp from it.
And his body is telling him to, you know, get pregnant, make a baby, and obviously that's completely the antithesis of how he sees himself.
Yeah, and it's kind of like I left it ambiguous because like we don't really know what like biologically he's feeling, but like in terms of like his own mentality, there's some sort of block. Right.
The part that I found interesting was pretty soon after he has that thought, right? He has the dialogue. I don't begrudge her the decision, he declares swiftly. It's not my body, which I took to like he's asking her, you know, to carry a child for them, because even though he might be biologically capable to, he really is not even close to even being comfortable to think about it. Yeah. So that's that's fascinating because it's like that's a selfish kind of thought, but it's like it's also very human and natural. Yeah. Okay. It did take me a little bit to parse that, but I think that's okay.
Yeah. It's supposed to and even like if readers like come in with their own thoughts and feelings about this, I guess they can kind of like read it into that in whichever direction.
Like there was when I first read it, I didn't think about pregnancy at all. I just thought it was I don't know. But I still found it interesting, even though I didn't know exactly what it was. So to broach the subject, is this something that you think about a lot, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
The idea of like children is very complicated,
right?
Because like the actual production of it is like a lot.
It's one way I would describe it,
and it's so culturally wrapped up with like womanhood. Like there was a book that I was reading a few weeks ago called The Joys of Motherhood, which is about this particular woman who moves from like her village to Lagos, right? And then like because she like her first husband, she like couldn't have his kids, and so she like moves with this other guy. But she's like, I'm not fully a person until I have a child. Oh, wow. And so there's this kind of like overarching or like intercultural connection of like womanhood and like motherhood and all this. So with this story, it's kind of like playing that out and what he's expecting of himself and what like everyone else is kind of like placing on him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the bracketed thoughts are very powerful.
Especially the very last one. Last one really.
It's
really
full. You go full poetry. And it works,
Yeah.
It works so well. But it's interesting because sometimes it's really hard to pull off, a really dramatic last line, because then it's like, oh, it's the last line. Of course, it's going to be dramatic. But this is fully earned.
Because of what you set up throughout it, and just the prose that you set up. I would expect nothing else than this for the last line.
Right.
Yeah.
And it definitely brought it home. I think that's why I love it so much.
Oh, it's so good. Oh. Yeah. As the doof saying, the doof media saying is, I love this, and I love this.
Oh.
So,
is that the doof media saying?
Yeah, it is.
I wasn't at that meeting.
Well, that's because you haven't listened to We've Got Ward. Or Worm. They do an analysis of Worm, and it became basically a catchphrase because Scott is, it's the two of them. Matt has read the story, Scott hasn't. And so one of the most common things is that Scott would say in almost every episode, Matt, I love this, because he would love a particular part. So and it's we love this is the doof media motto, and I also love that. Anyway, so speaking of loving things, I love so many of these lines. I'm trying to find them all. Oh yeah, just the whole dialogue with the inevitability and yeah. Let me find a couple. So, his mind unbidden settles on 4 hours earlier. Rumpled curls, a pillow creased cheek. So we get like the whole setting right there. Reluctance hiding under starched childhood sheets. A whispered confession in the not quite morning light, souring the quiet air. Reluctance hiding under starched childhood sheets. Oof.
Yeah. I have this whole other, like, the concept of, like, childhood sheets is a really fascinating one to me. Because, like, especially, like, the initial kind of, like, entering into college, you either, like, bring them with you or you, like, leave them. Yeah. Which is very, like, indicative, I would think, of your own, like, mentality. I don't know. It's a very fascinating concept.
Yeah. I also love, what do I know of eternity? A polished, imagined forever. I think that's how I'm going to think of eternity from now on. A polished, imagined forever. Because, we can't, there's no way for us to experience eternity because we are finite beings. Yeah. If it was eternity, we would not remember being born. We would remember eternity, right?
Yeah. And our forever, like our eternity now, is just our finite experience.
Yes. So
like this is the world that we're going to have to live in.
Yeah.
Always. We apply the definition to it.
Yeah. So this is really beautiful. So okay, I should probably look for something to critique. So you know what? There actually was a couple places where I found it really hard to hear who was talking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like in that first dialogue when she says, right? You taste like sugar, sweet on my tongue, but sure the promise is bitter aftertaste of heartache. I can't last a lifetime of it, lovely. And so I thought that was him because we've been with him the whole time. Yeah. And we don't introduce her until basically after that.
And we're not quite sure that she is present.
Exactly.
Because it's just like, curls.
Right.
It seems to me more so as a memory.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when the next line is, the words he did not say back are rotting beneath his tongue. So I assume that's him not saying back. But then there was still some uncertainty of like, maybe she replied and he didn't say more things. So I don't know how ambiguous you want to leave that. But
yeah, that scene, I think I struggled a bit too, because there was like a few other things that were kind of like I wanted her to say. So there was like more of a silence of like what she wasn't saying. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It didn't quite fit exactly how
I mean, like, on that idea, I feel that there's this place that you're very close to, balancing the ambiguity into very natural storytelling. And I feel that the only thing that was totally missing for me, right, is a moment where it can just breathe.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's very, idea, concept, feeling, and emotion, and that's fine. It's fine for it to be a torrent of floods. I mean, that's how humans feel.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel that it would go to great use if there was a moment of reprieve.
Yeah.
That we can step even a half step outside to get a bigger picture than just what's happening right now.
Yeah.
And that's just trying to find a good strike a balance between a lot of the ideas that you're setting up.
I really agree with that in that if you could make this a longer piece, I think, like, if it was just like, how many pages is this? Probably like 2, right? Maybe 3. If this was like 6 pages, I would love that space. But if it remains 3 pages, I think, like, with a shorter piece, your reprieve is the beginning and the end. It's you starting and finishing, right?
Sure.
Because it's so short that, like if you were to keep the exact same word count, I feel like you couldn't afford to add in the reprieve. Yeah. But yeah, I do get what you're saying, though. I
mean, like, what I've found is that when it comes to reading things, especially when it comes to poetry or something very, very similar to this, I find that the mind doesn't latch on to ideas until there's a moment where the ideas stop.
Yeah.
Because, it's like how in a lot of languages, you don't get the full context of the sentence until the sentence is over. Mm-hmm. So I feel finding a period to this piece will be able to ground a lot of those things into the mind, and then you go forth from there.
Yeah.
I want to go back a bit. I love I don't want to say reveal because that's not really what it is, but the slow. I mean, of course, the default that a lot of readers come into, right? Because we've all been conditioned that way is, white male of a certain age or whatever, right? And
middle-aged white male with a 5 o'clock shadow.
Yes, exactly. And I love the way that you like start. You don't like challenge it outright, but it's something that sinks into you, a realization that the body dysmorphia starting in paragraph 1, right? With the striked out menstruation and the dull pain that sinks lower in his belly every time he sees it, and then not me, which is like, I mean, if you know what you're looking for, obviously it becomes very obvious. So that was easier for us because obviously. We've talked to you before. But a first time reader, I'm interested in seeing how, like, maybe organically that realization kind of comes to them. So, So I really like that part as well. I do have a question of what. So what does the line "too much shifting for the taste of men"?
Oh, mean? Okay. So that I actually didn't write that.
Okay.
That was an inscription that, like, I found on a desk.
You actually found that on a desk. Yeah, you found the phrase "too much shifting for the
really
taste of men." Wow,
that sounds.
Yeah, there was like too much shifting for the taste of men, and like we tried, but we didn't have time.
Oof.
Where is this desk?
Damn.
It's like I think it's the 3rd floor, of the.
Willis or Sycamore?
No, it's up in Providence.
Oh,
and at the
okay, so not at the University of North Texas.
No, you can't find it here.
Damn, I gotta go around and just copy them. And
sadly, we aren't that artsy.
We are faux artsy. Excuse me.
Truthfully, the fake is artsy.
Yeah,
but it's also like a comfortable artsy,
with the exceptions, of course. Well, interesting. So what does it mean to you? Or does you want to just like carry across the tone and you didn't really...
So to me, I thought it was interesting because it precludes the idea of like evolving as a human. Mm-hmm. And like as a person, that's kind of different, but I guess like that you present like a specific image of yourself and it somehow remains stagnant. Mm-hmm. Especially if you like leave and whoever it is has just that memory of you and you like return and they like have this idea of like, this is what you have to be.
Right.
And you were like, I'm not that anymore. Like I have 5 years of a person that's attached to me. You don't know.
Okay, I think I got that. Where it's obviously this person is changing away from their assigned gender identity, right?
Yeah.
And my only confusion, I think, was because, men is obviously gendered, but I think in this case you mean it in the non-gendered way, right? Yeah, you mean it of just, like, people, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Okay, yeah. I keep saying yeah, but that's because the realization is...
It's washing over you.
Yes. Yeah.
So, if you had the opportunity, even though I know it's something like this, it's what?
No, nothing. I'm just wondering what this phrasing is going to be.
If you have the opportunity, even though I know it's something like this, it's a little bit... There's a lot more thought that probably has to go into it. But if you did have the possibility to go back and fine-tune and tweak things, what would be the first couple things that you would spot?
Keeping in mind, I want to point out to listeners, and of course also Clarence, that we would love to talk about this for another 30 minutes. But unfortunately, this is... We already talked too much.
Also, the piece needs to be somewhere 40 minutes.
I'm stressing about
You're
it.
like...
It's fine. A little bit.
Physically, like, tense right now.
Maybe a little bit. It's fine.
Yeah, I feel like I would perhaps spend more time on the second scene and kind of, because there was like very specific images. Also, like the kind of like shift where he's like, oh, I need like, a better solution, alcohol. That he goes and like drinks tea. There was going to be like more of this kind of progression from like tea to whiskey after there's like this huge kind of conversation that occurs, and they like are down on the ground, so there is this sort of like grounding moment of just like experiencing themselves together, and kind of that I think I would go back into and maybe like tweak the kind of like memory portion of it a little bit more.
Okay. Sounds fantastic. Yeah. If you do rewrite it, please show it to us.
Yeah.
Okay.
And please do the right thing again, please, if you can.
I like it. It's fun.
Okay, good. I'm glad you like it.
This is like, I like this kind of like constrained like pieces of it.
Yeah, and it's
that's
interesting.
always like when the best art is made. Like everyone's like, oh, I want freedom, but like the like constraints.
Well, because with freedom you
the thing that I keep pointing at is that like if I were to have complete freedom, I would write the same things over and over again because
I do.
Yeah,
I pick up the same threads all the time. Where I'm like, oh yeah, here's this same like
here's this exact same phrase that I'm using again.
So unless if I challenge myself, in which case I'm intentionally putting limitations on myself so I don't do my defaults, then I'm just going to do the same thing over and over again. So for me, this challenge is really good because I'm doing different things.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay, with that, let's move on to the last sections of the podcast. Thank you so much for reading your story.
Yeah.
Yes. Which is our listener-submitted story.
Yes. So we're going to be talking about 5 stories, 4 randomly generated, randomly chosen, and 1 selected.
And those 5 stories are, going from top to the very bottom, is Synths with At Death's Door. And then we're just going to go ahead and caroon over to Ace of Sword with Too Many Teeth, you. And then after that, we're going to go to More Nail, which theirs is untitled.
His. It's Matt.
Oh, yes.
He's a big he.
big he. And then Killinat with In a World Undisturbed, and then we're going to go over to
We're going to go to the last story this week, which is It's All Uphill, which is really funny because they wrote a story about a mountain.
Oh, yes, a lot of crunching.
Yes. If your story was not selected this week, we are sorry, but we unfortunately have a limited time.
Yes, very limited now.
Yep. But we always have a limited time. But every single time that you do the right thing, you get added one more time into the drawing. So every time you do it, you are more likely to get chosen the next time.
Exactly. And this is a proven system, and just because you aren't chosen this time does not mean you won't be chosen the next time.
In fact, it means that you're more likely to be chosen next time.
Exactamundo. So please keep on writing along with us. I mean, we're helped by this, and you're helped by this, but beyond all that, let's talk about the story.
If you have not read the stories, please do. They're all amazing, fantastic, beautiful, gorgeous, really good.
Yeah.
And we are going to completely spoil them. They're still very enjoyable, even while they're spoiled, but I think you should go and read them if you can. So pause this, and then go read them, and then come back.
Yeah, please. Discover these stories for yourself. You get the most out of it that way.
Okay, so which one do you want to do first?
We shall talk about At Death's Door.
What? Since. Thank you. Oh yeah, so this story about the creation of a boogeyman is very interesting. Okay, so this story by Synths. So we open with this woman. She is dead, basically, or has been left half dead, and her whole village, all her people are dead, including her daughters and sons, and it's really awful. But we see her kind of use spells to bring herself almost back from the dead. Mm-hmm. With all of the ghosts of her people, it kind of empower her. And she goes and she collects different heirlooms to empower herself, and she changes over time. This kind of collecting the artifacts is this really awesome kind of buildup of strength until at the end she goes to the cave where the beast people, I don't think it's literal, I think they're just terrible people, are, and she goes, and it's implied she kills them really good. It's a really strong sense of revenge.
And then the blood soaks into the trees.
Yes. Yeah, it ends with, once I was done with the monsters, the trees would drink of their blood and grow red for 100 years. And the thing is, because we've kind of set up this as a magical world in which, by intaking something, like she puts on a bear cloak and the pelt of a bear, she becomes physically stronger. Yeah. It kind of gets a sense that, like, maybe that actually will happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like a very, like, physically magical.
Yes.
Exactly. For some reason, it reminds me so much of, like, a myth.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Like one of those myths where, like a wronged man does this, and this, and that's why when you cut open a tree, it's slightly red on the inside.
Sure, okay. I see why that would work. Yeah, it definitely has the sense of collecting the artifacts, like, Hercules in the main line. Generous Nat, I think, talked about how they would have loved to see more of the process of armoring herself, and I completely agree. Obviously, there's not that much time. Exactly. It's just that's so cool.
That's such a fascinating portion of it.
And how these items and devices just imbue their power into them.
It's very Pact. So if you've read Pact, that's if you haven't read Pact, that's kind of
What's
a big
Pact?
tone.
Pact?
It's a second story by Wildbow. Scott Magic. It's good. I won't go into it, but
who's Wildbow?
A good author.
What like Pact, like PACT?
Yeah, PACT. Yes.
Okay.
Like a pact with a demon.
Yes. But let's not get into that because I already talked about Pact too many times on here. But yeah, so this is a really wonderful story. I very much enjoyed the action and the empowering and the feeling of revenge getting dealt out. So
yeah, definitely.
All right. So next story is by
Ace of Sword. With Too Many Teeth, which, as I read more stories like this, I further realize that I have I get a grotesque feeling when I think of teeth.
I don't like teeth at all.
Especially, to preface this is a continuation of their previous story from a couple weeks ago.
And I think they've posted a couple other of the stories in, like, writing prompts. Yeah. But yeah, I remember this story from a while ago where
Abel is being chased by Dental. And they both have... Well, Dental, like, unzips into teeth.
Yes.
Which is so fascinating.
Yeah.
Like, that's a beautiful idea for, like, a beast. And, like,
have you seen
sort of
Parasite?
Anime? But I haven't.
Okay. Well, so I have a question for you. So we've read the previous entry in this, in which we got the full... scope of the situation before this particular entry. Mm-hmm. So going into it, was it confusing to you, or did it work out okay? And it's okay if it was confusing.
I didn't find it confusing.
Okay, good.
I kind of just, like, once, because I feel like I read this one, like, third or fourth, so I was, like, already kind of in the mindset of this kind of, like, sci-fi, fantasy sort of world, so I was like, okay, monster, like, I'm ready for this, and, like, let's go.
Right.
Plus, I just got really excited about the
teeth.
Just this kind of, like, amorphous kind of,
this beam that just unwraps to an array of teeth.
To quickly summarize what happens, so we have Abel, who's a shapeshifter, going through and running away from Ovecraft. No, not Ovecraft. I'm sorry. What's his name?
Dental,
who is a a blob of teeth.
Yeah.
And he goes into the lab to escape him and finds Ovecraft, which Dental in the previous story was impersonating. And Ovecraft is hiding inside a incubation tube, among others. And at the end, Abel picks up a syringe that will be used to fight Dental. So I thought the tension of going around this room was really well done. And I really loved the reveal of the homunculi not having hair, and that's how he can identify that Ovecraft is not a homunculi like the others in the test tubes. I thought that it would be pretty easy to just slip in a reference nearer to the beginning of like when they enter, it would be like hairless homunculi, and then later we notice the hairs and we're like, oh shit, there's different.
Yeah.
But I think it still worked really well.
And overall, personally, I think I'm excited for the part 3.
Yeah, I am too.
I would love to see how this ends up.
I'm not looking forward to the teeth part, but the rest, yes.
I think there could be more teeth, personally. Like, I mean, my skin didn't crawl. Next time, I want my bones to rattle.
Okay. What's the next story?
Next story is More Dinamail.
More Dinamail. So this is Matt from the Doofcast. And he writes a story about a...
hospital.
No, it's a war zone.
Yeah.
Okay. The main character is named Pierce, and they are implied to be like a lieutenant or a commander of some sort. And they are extremely dazed and like completely in confusion in the middle of... in a trench in the middle of war, and a medic is saying that they have to cut out the leg, and we can easily tell how Pierce is taking so long to even wrap his head around what that means.
Yeah.
Exactly. Especially since they're doing it without any morphine.
Yes.
This is like physical shock, but then also like mental shock.
Yes. Yes. And basically, I think it's implied that like an explosion happens or something happens where the medic is now gone, and Pierce doesn't even... that doesn't even show up in the narrative because Pierce doesn't realize it. Yeah. And so he kind of like wanders away before falling and I think dying. The one little thing, I was a little confused by the ending, which the last line is the screaming started. And I wasn't sure if that was supposed to be Pierce screaming or someone else.
Well, I honestly got it as in the heat of war, right? I've seen plenty of times to where the background sounds are drowned out by the influx of great emotion and the shock. Okay. So I feel in that moment, I got it as that it can finally be heard. How the person's being pulled back to the present. In a sense.
Yeah. Because there's also the like deadening of like of explosions that there is that kind of.
Okay. I took it as like maybe Pierce started screaming, but I don't know. I found it a little bit odd for it to be the final line like that. Like it feels like having the last line be like that was like a reveal, like of like I don't know.
You wanted to like continue.
Yeah. I feel like it could have ended on Pierce closes his eyes, or something like that. I don't know. But but I very much enjoyed it. It's a very, visceral kind of emotional, almost toll the story takes on you.
Yeah.
It does.
Even though it's very short. So, well done, Matt.
Yeah, short, but tasty.
Yeah, I was hoping you wouldn't say sweet, because this is not sweet.
Yeah, it's very salty. It's not even salty. It's like umami.
I would agree with that. It is more like umami.
That's like fancy flavor, right?
No.
Close.
It's a flavor that we don't have a word for, but it's like...
It's hard to describe.
Except
it's like an MSG kind of like back of the mouth flavor. Yeah. At least that's what it is to me.
It's like if you could taste vibration.
Okay, so let's move on to the next story,
which is In a World Undisturbed by Killinat.
Thank you. I just need the name, Jarvis.
Sorry if I'm giving these people the praise that they deserve. Matthias. Go, Matthias, do it.
Okay. So we are open on Avery sitting in front of his house on the deck, and surrounding is endless snow. But he feels someone combing his hair, and it's his little sister. And it takes a little bit before we realize that she is mute, and all the dialogue is just from him. But it's very cute interactions. Like you could very much picture her movements as she, communicates a couple things to him. And we have this like nice little interaction between them. We get this really strong sense of tone of like a world gone quiet and a little bit sense of magic. So someone is at the gate, and so Avery goes over. And again, we have some more interaction. It's really lovely and very character driven. And this man is at the gate, and we have this interesting interaction where the man is clearly very afraid of Avery, who, while his sister is very small for her age, Avery is like a giant of a boy. It says, I think 2 heads taller than the man, but with a face half the age. And so I wasn't exactly sure what the man was coming to do. I almost got the sense that he was going to like hurt him or something, like he came to do something bad, because he says that he brought a package, but it feels like it's a lie.
Yeah, because it's like somewhere unknown.
Yeah. But it's, there's this beautiful, imagery of the snow, like the very ending, the man says that the package is in the snow, and he it fell in the snow over there. He pointed very, very far away on the snow, which is slowly working to rebuild its perfect, undisturbed world. So the particular things I like and I love in here are the character interaction between the brother and sister, which is adorable and heartwarming, and then these, this snow that like keeps getting messed up but like fixes itself.
One thing that I was definitely drawn to, even though it is very little in the actual story, but the characterization of the dialogue and how I think the very first line is I won't go out if I don't have to. And I like the addition of the "have," and it's used very often whenever this one character is speaking, and that shows that they have a different way of saying "have," of course. But in my mind, for some reason, I thought, oh, these are pirates. Because that was the connection that I didn't make. Sure. But, of course, I'm not correct. But, yeah, I just very much so enjoyed that.
One little nitpick is that I would say if there was an apostrophe before the "avs," that'd be perfect. It would help me understand that this is intentional. Because I was like, that seemed like that could be... in an accent in a dialogue, or it could just be that they misspelled it, and so I wasn't sure until like the second dialogue. So just put an apostrophe, I think.
It felt very like Cockney.
Cockney, something like that. Feel.
But it's a wonderful little story. Okay, so next is it the final story?
The final story.
Final story by It's All Uphill. It's called The Mountain.
And also, I just want to say, right, I absolutely love it when anything starts with a onomatopoeia.
Which this one starts crunch, 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 and then wind blows against you, pushing you back, pushing you down, crunch, crunch. It's very evocative of the setting, very quickly.
Yeah. But so the story overall, or at least what I got, is that you...
Yes, this story is told in second person, which I thought this was really well executed.
Yeah,
it was fascinating.
I rarely see second person, but I'm a deep lover of it, and I love what it does to the story, especially when you read it. But this story, I can tell, is just you are going through this extremely cold mountain, and it's very much so steeped in the description of the scenery and what is happening.
The mountain is also hostile to the people climbing it, not only with the wind and the snow, but also with it emanating these emotions of doubt but also trust and really complicated feelings.
How the mountain is pushing you towards your own demise, I can feel.
Yeah.
So the main character, you leave the rest of your party and you decide to climb the mountain by yourself, and kind of really committing to it when it kind of really seems like you're definitely going to die if you climb all the way up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It says you know that you can't climb back down now, so you just continue on. But it's okay, but if you get to the top, you can't come back anyway.
Yeah. It's just you must complete this action.
Mm-hmm. But the part that I want to focus on that I found very interesting is when you do get to the top. You go to the top and you get to this. There's this pool at the top which says you put your hand in, and instantly
you become a part.
You become the mountain, and the mountain. There's no line that says you are part of the mountain. It's extremely seamless because the subject doesn't change and it remains you the whole time.
And then you start to feel the snow and the trees, and you feel the other people on the mountain climbing up towards the same thing.
Yeah. So first,
which makes those like emotions that you were kind of like stepping upon while climbing like so much more like
creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing I love about it is that so you touch it, right, and you get the sensation of the mountain and everything else, which seems like, I mean, it's almost like a comic fantasy trope, right? Of like you gain senses of the thing, right? But then it goes on, and suddenly the U's agency is wanting to do something that they wouldn't have wanted to do before. That they're still a group, but not for long. You can drive them apart, and one by one they'll come to you to the summit, like.
Yeah.
Then, like, we thought the previous paragraph was in the original U's perspective, but now it's in the mountain U's perspective, which is very interesting.
Yeah, very seamless the way that it was written. Honestly, just absolutely loved it. Took me on a journey. The prose are very tight, and everything has a purpose that is being said. For me, it reminded me of a more mystical version of the short story that I had to read about a man traveling through the Yukon, and then he meets a dog and then he freezes to death.
Okay.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
What do you mean, yes?
You don't know that story?
No, I don't.
Into the wilderness.
Into the wild?
Into the wild.
But that's just a dog.
That's not it.
No, that's the like lucky guy who was like, I'm just going to go foolishly live without doing any research.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And then die.
And they die. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just...
Yeah, it was in that same cluster of like...
you're talking about Hatchet.
No. Is that what
No, it's not Hatchet. No, Hatchet.
It's not Hatchet?
I was saying that's a joke because it's the Hatchet is the...
Is that not
is the wilderness story you have to read in middle school.
Is that not the one where...
There's no dog.
Oh, well then it's not Hatchet.
Yeah.
But it's akin to that.
Yes, it's in that genre.
Because like the dog leaves after he dies.
Okay, with that is the stories of this week. Thank you so much to everyone who wrote. Again, sorry if we didn't get to your story, but you are more likely to get chosen next time. So here's a shout out to all of the people who wrote.
Kippos 21.
I don't have the list up.
Get better.
It's just not fast enough. Oh yeah, and Kippos, I want to point out that I want to call attention to this. Who wrote a fan fiction about a fellow doof member? And the story is called "Horny on Maine." So if you are part of the doof chat, please go read it. It's very important.
That'd be crazy
to our community. So thanks to It's All Uphill,
Since
Ghost Pac-Man 4,
Generous Nat,
Kausubalu V2,
Sir Raven,
No Goodbye,
Bisexual Punch Party,
very good username, Megafire 7,
Shin 7,
Ace of Sword,
More Diddamail,
close enough, Maizy 1,
Haunt of the Heroine, Onto the Heroine,
Kamikaze Tomato, I almost said Tornado, that would have been interesting also,
Killing That,
and Sarah Penguin.
And Rid Tom.
Yes.
Thank you so much for everyone that wrote in. Without you, this show would not be a thing, and we would just be really weird people talking in to a mic, talking to no one whatsoever. So thank you for making us sane.
That's how we were for the first 10 episodes.
Yeah, and it was depressing and sad.
It wasn't depressing and sad. It was just depressing.
Maybe I was depressed and sad.
So thank you so much, everyone who wrote. And everyone who's just listening, if you have fallen off the wagon, you haven't done the right thing in a while, don't worry. You can do that at any time. We will not shame you.
Always
It's good for you. And everyone who's doing NaNoWriMo, good luck, guys. If you want to be like all these amazing doof writers, you can go to /r/do-the-right-thing on Reddit and go to the latest comment thread and post your story there. The goal, of course, to reiterate, is you have You set a timer for 30 minutes, and then you have to write a story with 3 of the 4 randomly generated words.
Exactly. And if you want to support us and our other fellow doofers, please, you can donate $1 to $5 to $1,000 to the Doof Media patron. Basically, by doing that, you will gain access to a very exclusive Discord.
The great community.
The great community filled with wonderful people. And also, you'll be submitted into a sub category to where your stories that you submit will have a slightly higher chance of getting picked.
Yep. And of course, there's plenty of other wonderful benefits you get. I forget what the next time was supposed to say. Oh, if you want to find out the words the day they come out, you can follow at RightThingCast on Twitter or go to the subreddit.
Yeah, and also if you just have anything that you want to say to us, want to tell us that we're doing a great job, want to tell us how much you don't like us, or just want to have a nice little back and forth dialogue with your favorite boys in the entire world, you can send us an email at rightthingcast@gmail.com.
That's right. We haven't gotten a single email so far, so you can be the first one. Well, we've got a couple, but they were with the specific intention of if you are a Doof patron and you have not let us know, you are not getting the benefit of the increased chance. So please just send us an email with your username because we really appreciate that. Yeah. And also, if you don't have Reddit but you want to do the right thing, and we can post it for you or something like that. Also, please consider leaving a rating and review. I know now we have so many things that we need to add, but
please do.
Yeah, actually, I don't think we have a rating and review yet either, so you can be the first one. I mean, we have patrons, so it's kind of like, but yeah. Okay, so is there anything else we need to say? I suppose.
Oh, one very last thing. If you do love us, and you love what we do, the best thing you can possibly do for us to help us out would be to tell a friend.
Tell a writer friend, for sure, yeah.
Word of mouth is the best way for this to get around, and we simply just want to help the most amount of people do the right thing.
Yeah. So I want to plug a couple things on Doof Media. So Media MD had their Jordan Peele Halloween Spooktacular, where they talk about us and Get Out, as well as a little section from me talking about Transformers. So please go and listen to that, and listen to the diagnosis when that comes out. I think next week, the week after, something like that. And as well, the Doofcast has an episode deconstructing Shyamalan, The Visit. So I haven't listened to that episode yet, but I'm very excited to because they make me like things that I would normally like.
Yeah.
So,
well, I don't think you'll like The Visit.
I think they might have a fun twist on it.
Yeah, I mean there are a lot of things that you could dive in deep and dissect, but
yeah. They also did an episode on Ping Pong, the animation. The anime called Ping Pong. It's a ping pong anime. It's an anime about ping pong. Apparently it was really good. Really good.
I mean, they're...
Like the game?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like the ball going back and forth?
Yes.
The sport.
Okay, that's what I figured.
Yes. All right. I think that's all the announcements we have for this week.
All right, so I think it's time for us to talk about the best thing ever, and that is next week's words. Can someone give me a drum roll, please? Thank you, Matthias, for not giving me a drum roll. The words for next week are late, tense, butter, and hot.
So late as in to be late and not early. Tense as in like...
Tension.
Yes. Butter as in...
That delicious shit, baby.
And then hot as in
not
the opposite of cold.
Yes. So, hot butter. Hot butter. You've never been hotter than when the butter is late.
What?
It is late. It is okay. Today is... tense.
Is that the story? Is that your story for this week?
That is my quick 3 bars.
Okay. I felt extremely tense because I was rushing home and I knew I was late. The butter at home must be so hot. It must be leaking butter everywhere, flooding my room, flooding my bedroom, soaking into the sheets, into the carpet, into the broom, into my hair. I'm too late.
You've become butter.
That's my story. Okay, let's go.
Oh yeah. So the convention of this very long running gag is that you take the 4 words and you have to make an entire story
right now
as quick as possible.
You have 30 seconds. Right
go. Go.
I don't know if I...
Just start with one word. Go.
Late into the night, the boy was sitting at the table waiting for them to come home the butter sitting out on the table. And the hot tea already cool and tepid. His shoulders tense and his knees locked. He tried not to think about who wasn't coming home.
Okay. So you went and did an actual story.
So there you go. You did a real story. I spit a quick 2 bars, and Matthias did something.
Oh, I did the normal thing.
Yeah, but
you turned into butter.
You turned into butter.
This is the normal thing that we do at the end of our episode. You would know if you were a real fan.
Exactly.
Oh, I see.
But either way, all 3 of us did the right thing.
Is that the end? Did you just end the show?
I don't know if I ended the show.
I think you ended the show.
Yeah, the show is over.
Okay.